right, so Excel. I think we can all agree that sometimes it's a little scary.
Yeah, it can be.
It's powerful, but there's all these kind of hidden depths, right? Like a whole secret level.
Yeah.
And one of those is DAX, data analysis expressions. And that's what we're diving deep on today.
It is.
Specifically, we're going to be looking at one of the DAX functions, and that is earlier. Have you used this one a lot?
I have. It's incredibly powerful.
Okay. So for our listeners who have never even heard of DAX, let alone earlier, can we maybe start with like a real simple definition? Like, what is it?
Sure. DAX is a formula language that you can use in Excel, and it allows you to work with data in tables, and you can actually, create relationships between those tables. So you can ask questions of your data.
Yeah, it goes beyond just, the simple sum function or something like that.
Right, exactly. You can, go much deeper with your analysis using DAX.
Okay, so earlier. Where does that fit in?
So earlier is a function that allows you to basically reference a value in a previous row, even if those rows aren't right next to each other.
Okay. So I'm already thinking about use cases. Like I'm thinking about, like if I'm tracking my spending every month, I could use earlier to look at, how much did I spend last month versus this month? Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe you're tracking sales data and you want to compare, this month's sales to last year's sales. That's where earlier is really helpful.
Okay. So I'm starting to get the concept. I think an analogy might be helpful here. You've got one.
Yeah, sure. So think about it like, you're reading a book.
Okay.
And there's like a big plot twist.
Right.
And to understand why it happened, you might want to flip back a few chapters.
Oh, yeah.
To find those clues. Right. So earlier, it lets you do that with your data.
I love that. Okay. That makes it really clear.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how to actually use this function.
Okay.
What does the syntax look like?
All right. So the syntax for earlier is you have, the function name earlier, and then in parentheses, you have two arguments.
Okay.
The first argument is the column that you want to reference.
Yeah.
And then the second argument, which is optional, is the number of rows that you want to go back.
Okay.
So by default, it's just going to go back one row.
Makes sense.
But you can, specify 2 rows, 3 rows, whatever you need.
Okay. That's really simple. It's way simpler than I was imagining it to be.
Yeah. DAX can actually be quite, straightforward.
All right. And so we talked about like comparing monthly spending or comparing sales to the previous year. Any other cool examples that come to mind?
Yeah, definitely. You could use it for inventory management. So let's say you're tracking the number of units that you have in stock.
Right.
You could use earlier to compare your current inventory level to, let's say, the inventory level a week ago.
Ah, okay.
So you can see how quickly you're selling through your inventory.
Very practical. I like that.
Okay.
Now, we've talked a lot about the upsides of earlier.
Yeah.
But are there any downsides? Like, is there a time when we might not want to use it?
So one thing to keep in mind is performance.
Okay.
If you're working with, a really, really large data set,
right,
and you're using earlier a lot, it can potentially slow down your calculations.
Okay.
Just because it has to, go back and retrieve all those previous values.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is maybe getting a little bit more advanced, but are there any limitations on when we can use it? Like in terms of different data sources or anything like that?
Yeah, there is one limitation that's worth mentioning if you're working with data that's in direct query mode.
Okay.
Which is basically a way of connecting directly to a database.
Right.
You can't use earlier in that scenario.
Okay. It's fine. Most people are probably not going to be running into that.
Probably not. But it's something to be aware of.
All right. So in conclusion, earlier is this really powerful function.
Mm-hmm.
It lets you look back in time, compare values, really, really useful for all sorts of analysis.
Definitely.
Anything else that we haven't covered that you think is really important for people to know?
I think the biggest thing is just don't be afraid to experiment with it. Try combining earlier with other DAX functions.
Yeah.
See what you can come up with.
It's all about exploration. It's all about seeing what you can do.
Yeah. And I think, once you start using earlier, you'll be amazed at the insights that you can uncover.
It's like opening up a whole new world within Excel.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive on earlier.
You're welcome.
I think everyone listening is going to be able to take something away from this and apply it to their own work.
I hope so.
And for everyone listening, if you come up with any cool ways to use earlier, make sure to share them with us on social media.
Yeah. We'd love to hear about it.
All right. Until next time.
Bye.